Blackpool Pleasure Beach is one of the best amusement parks here in the UK. This is what I would do if I was to own the park over the next 5 years or so. The park already has some fantastic flat rides, roller coasters, dark rides and water rides. However, there's always room for improvement, and there's always wonder for us fans and enthusiasts to speculate about what the park is going to do over the next few years. And we, as fans, always want to know what we would be doing if we owned the park, and if we were in charge, what new coasters, what new rides would we add to the park over the next few years. Now, I want to preface with this is all my opinion. Some takes in this video are likely to be very controversial, especially from you Pleasure Beach fans. I know there's a very cult audience and a cult fan base for that park, and I think some of the decisions I'm going to make, if I were in charge of this park, could definitely split decisions, I think is fair to say. I think some things I might say in this video might be slightly controversial regarding how I would run the park and what rides I may be potentially removing especially. But let's get into it. If you do enjoy today's video, please do give it a like. It massively helps out the channel. Subscribe for more, and like I say, subscribe for far more videos on Blackpool Pleasure Beach and these similar kinds of videos in the future. So let's have a look at what Blackpool Pleasure Beach has firstly added to the park over recent years. Now, their newest coaster over the past few years was Icon. This is the Mack Rides multi-launch coaster, which was added in 2018, and before that, their newest coaster, but before Icon, was added actually in 2007, so 11 years earlier, which was Infusion, their Vekoma SLC. And this was actually a relocated SLC. It wasn't brand new. This came from Southport Pleasureland, where it was formerly known as Traumatizer. So actually, since the year 2000, they've actually only opened 2 coasters, and one of which was a relocation. So in this, I'm going to preface, I'm definitely going to be slightly ambitious. I'm going to be realistic in the sense, talking about budgets for the park and everything. I know Blackpool don't have as much money as a park like Austin Towers or Thorpe Park, so I'm not going to go out there and be stupid and say, Blackpool Pleasure Beach are going to go out and buy a Giga coaster. But we're going to be realistic, but also ambitious. I'm going to say what I would do if I was in charge, what coasters I'm going to add in, but also we're going to work around the budget of Blackpool Pleasure Beach. So it is clear, looking at this though, that Blackpool do have 10 operating coasters. A lot of them are thrill and extreme coasters. They don't have too many family-owned junior coasters. However, they are also in need of another thrill coaster, because when we look at modern thrill coasters, Icon is really the only one. Infusion, that's 15, 16 years old now at this point, and isn't exactly a popular ride. Vekoma SLCs aren't fantastic coasters, they're quite rough. So it's clear to see that they definitely need a new family coaster, as well as a new thrill coaster. So, in my opinion, and like I say, slightly ambitious for the park, but I think what would be best here is actually to strike up a partnership with Rocky Mountain Construction. And the reason for this is because of some new reveals they have made in recent weeks, I should say. And that recent announcement I'm talking about is actually their Wild Moose coaster concept. Now, for anyone who's not seen, the Wild Moose is a really interesting concept. This is a new model that is going to be manufactured by RMC, tailored to the family and family thrill markets. Now, obviously, we are all familiar with the traditional Wild Mouse coaster. These are sort of small pots of land coasters with lots of twists and turns, not too many big drops, but include lots of lateral moments, and are designed to sort of try and throw the riders around the car with these tight twists and turns. The RMC Wild Moose is a modernisation of the classic coaster model. And I think this would be fantastic for Blackpool Pleasure Beach. The idea of the Wild Moose is to revolutionise a classic coaster model, and Blackpool Pleasure Beach is a very traditional park. It's full of old coasters such as the big one. Even before that, you have Grand National, Nickelodeon Streak, Revolution, Steeplechase. So it is quite an old park, and therefore to modernise on some of their coasters, then this would be a great new addition to the park. When you look at the Wild Moose concept, the whole point is to use inspiration from the RMC hybrid coasters and their pre-lift sections to create a new version of the traditional Wild Mouse coaster. Still including the faithful twists and turns, but also a bit more airtime, some very unique turns and transitions that you wouldn't see on any other coaster. And this would pay homage to an older ride at Blackpool. Obviously recent years they had their wooden Wild Mouse coaster removed in 2017, that opened in 1958 at the park. So this would pay homage to that, but also provide a new family thrill coaster, modern experience for guests to enjoy. I think this would be a fantastic new addition to the park. I think it would be good for marketing as well, to be able to market the UK UK's first RMC and the world's first RMC Wild Moose, whilst also paying heritage to one of the older, more traditional coasters at the park and providing a new family thrill coaster. This could even go in the exact same place as the traditional old wooden Wild Mouse that was at Blackpool Pleasure Beach, and in my opinion would work wonders for the park. It'd be a great new family coaster. On the topic of working with RMC though, I think it is potential, obviously, split these coaster editions apart, maybe put one in 2025, one in 2030, that sort of thing, split them apart, obviously. Blackpool don't have the biggest budget in the world. I think adding a new RMC Raptor coaster would be fantastic for the park. I was going back and forth on two different coaster models when talking about getting a new thrill coaster for the park, and I'm going between either an RMC Raptor or a B&M Dive. I think a B&M Dive coaster would also work fantastically at Blackpool Pleasure Beach, It would look great on the skyline, maybe put it around somewhere towards the big one's turnaround. I know that concept has been thrown around multiple times in the past few years online amongst the theme park communities here in the UK. And I think it would be a fantastic coaster for the park, very iconic coaster, the B&M Dive machines, fan favourites amongst the GP, and I think it would be a great coaster. However, if you were to buy an RMC Wild Moose coaster to appeal to that family thrill market, I think you could, maybe strike some sort of a deal in with RMC. These things aren't uncommon in the theme park amusement industry, where you see packages bought between different manufacturers and parks. I think you could quite easily get some sort of combo price, lower price deal where you buy one and then get the other one for cheaper. I think it'd be fantastic to see an RMC Raptor come to the UK and come to Blackpool Pleasure Beach. We don't have here in the UK many airtime focused coasters, and I think it would be fantastic to see a really airtime focused coaster. I'm definitely talking about one of the smaller models, something like Railblazer or Wonder Woman, as compared to the larger models like Jersey Devil coaster. Sorry, it slipped my mind there. I think one of these smaller models, full of airtime, great whippy turns and transitions, some awesome inversions in there as well. This would be such a unique coaster here in the UK. Our first single rail coaster here in the UK. Not many single rail coasters here in Europe. I know one's opening in France next year, but it'd be very unique to the whole area, not just the UK. And seeing something with this much airtime in the UK would be fantastic. Here in the UK we have lots of inversion-based coasters, but not many airtime-based coasters, and something like this would be fantastic. So first thing I'd do in the next few years would be to get a RMC Wild Moose, appeal to the family thrill market, but also get an RMC Raptor to appeal to those true enthusiasts, the coaster fans, the thrill seekers out there. I would personally remove Steeplechase. This is the controversial take, probably to make room for the RMC Raptor or potentially a B&M Dive or whatever new thrill machine is. And the reason why I'm saying is, Blackpool Pleasure Beach don't have much room to work with, and I think over the next few years, maybe decades, because they don't add too many coasters, too many rides, they don't, tend to remove many new things to add new rides in. I think they are going to have to start to do that though. There isn't much room there, and they have taken up a lot of room. If not all of their room, and Steeplechase in that back corner of the park does take up a hell of a lot of room, and I know it's a classic, it's the only Arrow Steeplechase coaster left in the world, but it just doesn't hold up today. It's very janky, it's not very thrilling, the capacity is absolutely dreadful, and I just think even if you were to replace it with not even a thrill machine, but another family coaster or multiple different flat rides, I think there's definitely a lot more that can be done on that area now. You could build a high sort of thrilling coaster above the ground and then build lots of flat rides, something below the ground, even if it was to open new amenities like restaurants and shops. I think there's just much better things that can be done with that space nowadays, so I would also remove Steeplechase to make room for future expansions, and that is the controversial thing that I would do. I know this would is sort of a classic coaster at the park, and I know, like I say, when the Wild Mouse got removed there was a lot of flack from the fans of the park, but I would remove this, and potentially, not in the next 5 years as part of my plan, but the next coaster to go would definitely be Infusion, to make that way for a thrill coaster in the future, but not right now, because the park does need to keep those thrill coasters, especially ones with high capacity like Infusion. But they are the main coaster additions and removals I'd make. Like I say, if I was to remove Steeplechase, I would definitely get in some new modern Zamperla flat rides, maybe in Nebulas. I'm not sure if they have, I wouldn't expect so with the big one, but I'm not too familiar. I don't think they have any height restrictions. Obviously they have a drop tower at the front of the park as well. I would maybe add a Starflyer in that back right corner. I think that would be fantastic. You get some great views along the Blackpool seafront in that corner of the park, and like I say, some numerous flat rides as well. So if we look at generalising shortly here to sum up what I would do if I was in charge of Blackpool Pleasure Beach over the next 5 years, I would probably remove Steeplechase. I would add in a RMC Wild Moose coaster. I would add in an RMC single rail Raptor coaster, one of the smaller clone models for that fantastic airtime and those crazy transitions and turns. Super insane coaster. I'd probably add in some new Zamperla flat rides. I'd add in a Starflyer, and I'd do just a general cleanup of the park. You know, there are some areas which are looking a bit weathered. I'd like to repaint everything. Just some general love, general TLC. And, you know, for as ambitious as this is, you know, in the next 7 years before 2030, I think in Blackpool's Pleasure Beach's budget, this is not too much out of the realms of realism. I think some of these additions aren't that expensive. I'm not too sure. I think the Raptor models went for just under 15 million USD. So, you know, I think this is all relatively realistic, but I'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback down below. Do you agree with what I would do for the park? Or, you know, do you think I'm going crazy? Do you definitely not remove Steeplechase? I'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback on my suggestions for the park, and more importantly, what would you do if you were to own Blackpool Pleasure Beach, if you were in charge? I'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback on what new additions and removals, etc. you would do over the next 5 or 6 years or so. Thank you very much for watching. Please like the video if you enjoyed, subscribe to the channel for more, and thank you very much for watching.